Today we will be discussing information about the game, and we'll be picking Reggie's brain the best that we can to get you all of the information that you're looking for. On the chairs in front of me, we have some wonderful people from the VR community, including many variations of content creators, ranging from 3D artists to programmers, content creators on YouTube, all sorts of people, including Dorkie the Akward. We've also got Velp. We've got Noct, Jason the Livonator. This is our producer and backbone of the show. We've also got DaveStation VR, GrimCatnip Games, Jules Gamers World, Lina, and Xelex. So please check out these people and subscribe to them for excellent content. We've also started a new channel for the show directly. It's the PSVR chat show. So please subscribe and ring that bell so you know when a new show has dropped. We're very excited to show you guys more content in the future, so definitely please check that out. Now let's move on to the developer question time. I want to welcome Reggie Strange for spending his time with us here today and talking about his game. It's coming up on February 26th, and I'm really, really hyped to get into this. So once again, thank you for joining us. I think we're all really excited to get a little bit more information today.
Well, thank you for having me.
First of all, let's just get right into it and start here. What type of gameplay do you think we'll be experiencing with Honor and Duty D-Day?
Well, should be experiencing 32-player matches, team deathmatch and control point game modes with vehicles. We've just got in some new things that haven't been in the beta for the classes. I know people had asked about the medics and the engineers being able to do certain things, and so the medics can now heal players and get awards and earn cash for that. The engineers can now repair vehicles and actually steal enemy vehicles. So we've kind of given some of the classes some unique capabilities and such. Awesome. And so it should be kind of a continuation of all the gameplay we've seen in the beta. So we're looking forward to finally getting it out there and starting to move towards some of the other things we want to do.
Sounds great. Extremely excited. All right, so let's start off with our first question today. We have DaveStation VR.
So I imagine you're probably pretty good at this game since you made it and you've been playing it all the time. And for people who are just seeing this, as it gets released, do you have any tips for like somebody hopping in for the first time, especially like if they haven't played the beta before and they don't really know the ropes yet? Like straight from the developer, what do you got?
Well, I'll tell you, if playing it in VR is really a big help. If you don't have VR, you're definitely, I wouldn't say at a disadvantage, but I tell you, VR adds so much to it. But if you are playing with VR, make sure the first thing you do is go in and set your movement speed up. We had to set that by Sony standards to like a really, really slow value so that no one potentially ever gets, motion sickness. So, it's a little overcompensated there. So turn that up so you can, you can run fast. From playing it, I find like one of the big things is, to kind of use the VR to your advantage and get out there and, and look left, right, and get a whole field of view that's hard to get in flat mode, and, watch where all the enemy players are and such. That's one of the things I've found is pretty helpful for, racking up the kill streaks is really, getting the field of view, using that to your advantage and watching where the enemy's at, where they're running, because they tend to spawn in groups, and, watching where the enemies are spawning and kind of positioning yourself well. So those would be some of the tips I would suggest, and and learn the weapons as well. Which not all the weapons are as good as they definitely have their strengths and weaknesses. So learn the weapons would be another tip I would say.
Awesome,
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, if I keep losing anyways, I know who to blame.
All right. And I'll add to that the movement. That is an awesome feature that you've given people, because with VR Cygnus especially, some people can't handle certain speeds, and I noticed at first it was a little slow, so I'm really glad that you're able to kind of go in there and make things a little different for everybody. As well as that. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's so funny. I watch as I'm watching YouTube videos, I see a lot of people like, why is everybody walking faster than me? And, and eventually somebody will say, oh, go and turn your movement speed up. And, we've got a message that pops up the first time you play the game that says, if you're in VR, and I guess people just, read and pass by it. So that's one of the biggest things I've seen is people not adjusting that. So they're really at a disadvantage when they're running slow. But, they definitely wanted to make sure, you covered the range of different player preferences and all.
Very cool. Grim, I think you've got a question next.
What was your big inspiration for making this game?
Oh gosh, I started playing first-person shooters back, with Quake and the original Doom, and so I just always loved that kind of traditional run and gun, sort of gameplay, fast action, and so I always wanted to kind of do something like that. And, after we did the patch for our Honor and Duty Arcade Edition, we just saw such a tremendous response from the community. It's like, man, I want to do something in VR, and I want to capture that, that fun, just run and gun sort of thing I haven't played a lot of the more recent Call of Duties, but, some of the early Call of Duties we played, it was just a real fun action, sort of not too serious gameplay. And so we was, just really wanted to do something along those lines. And, so, it's been great just seeing everybody having a lot of fun with it. So I feel like we've kind of, kind of captured a little of what we were hoping to do.
Very exciting. So what is it that drives you when you're looking at possible game concepts?
Oh, gosh, we got so many things we want to do. And sometimes I'll just see another game and it'll just, something about it will be like, oh, it'd be really cool if you could take that, but then do this and add that to it. And so sometimes I get game, ideas just from seeing other games, or, sometimes you'll see a trailer for a game and you have no idea what that game's actually going to be like, but you have this idea of what it would be. And then it may be a totally different game, but you say, well, they did it that way. So, and that's not what I was thinking. So, I'd like to do this. Most recently, I think we had mentioned we were interested in doing a Tron/Star Wars sort of theme VR, and I've seen a trailer on Twitter. Somebody posted like a little clip of it, and it had the perfect art style for what I want to do, and it just really that art style kind of inspired me to start thinking about what I want to do with the Star Wars Tron thing. So sometimes it's just a little bit you see in other games, and
every time I hear you say that, it makes me smile. I just can't wait to see what comes of that.
Yeah, that really wasn't. I was really planning to do a different game next, but the more I thought about it, and from the response we got, that's definitely gonna be the next big game we do.
Awesome.
So, and we have RC Airplane Challenge coming up next too, but that's almost done.
Yeah, nice, cool. All right, Jules, I think you're up next.
Yes. What are your plans for the future of the franchise?
For the next installment of it, we're going to go back to a more realistic look and style to it. So it won't be the cartoony look. It'll be more kind of like what you saw in Arcade Edition, but a more refined art style and better art. Arcade Edition was done when we were smaller, didn't have the really just didn't have the resources and ability to do a better, art package for the game. And we're actually in the process of going back and kind of doing a remaster for it. But the next game in the series will definitely be a more realistic tone to it. We'll probably have a little more focus on the single player aspect of it, where, most of the games really, the past two have been more, online focused. That was really the core fun of the game. But so we'll probably put more focus on single player, and definitely we're looking to do some really great visuals for the next part of the franchise. The hope is that if D-Day does really well and, it's really good feedback, what I want to do is go to our Sony rep and hopefully get, some early access to the next generation hardware, and possibly get, to the point that we would have a day one, release on that. But I would say that really we're probably going to start work on basically a next gen, or the next console iteration. I don't think the next Honor and Duty will hit on the PlayStation 4. So, but I have no idea when the next console. So I was very clear. I have no inside knowledge. But I'm hoping if D-Day does well, then that will put me maybe, closer to being in the loop on that at some point. So.
Awesome. Well said. Yeah, that's great. And Jason, I believe you're up next.
Oh yeah. Do you have a roadmap plan for the game? Any new vehicles or weapons? Anything that you're going to be adding to the game?
Definitely, we've got a lot coming for D-Day. The biggest thing will be the planes, and we've got probably 4 or 5 different planes that people will be able to fly. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge, because when you go into planes, then you're having to render so much more geometry. You got all sorts of a lot more background that the player can see. There'll be a little bit of challenge there, but that's going to be one of the big things we're going to add is plane combat, more weapons, like we've got mortars, flamethrower coming, landmines, C4 for the engineer or the heavy class. So we've definitely got a lot more weapons coming. I'm trying to think, God, there's a handful of features we just weren't able to get in for the release. So there's quite a few things coming for D-Day. In addition, we'll probably push out a new map every month or so, as long as, the player base is up. So we definitely will be supporting it for a while.
That's awesome. That is,
yeah.
That's.
And player classes. We've got a lot more I shouldn't say classes, player characters to bring in. Right now, there's 4 player models, and each model is tied to a specific class. What we're going to do is break that out so that you can play any character model as any class. So if you want to play as currently we only have one female character, and it's a resistance fighter, and she's the medic. And so, if you don't want to be a medic, but you want to play as the female character, you'll be able to do that soon. And we've got probably about 10 to 15 more characters to add to the game. So, as well as equipment like backpacks and cosmetic hats and stuff like that. So.
Oh, that's that sounds like a lot of fun, man. It's already fun as is, but wow, that's a lot. That's fantastic, man.
Thanks. We're trying just to focus on the main, what makes the game fun right now. And there's a lot of things we want to do, but a lot of things that aren't necessary for having fun with it right now. So, that was the main focus, was to get all the core stuff that really makes the game enjoyable and get that done, and then start worrying with the other stuff later. Like the planes would be neat, but you don't have to have the planes in there to run around and have a good experience in VR.
Yeah, you've done a great job with that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Even from the...
Nothing beats a game that just keeps going. It's like the key these days. Nice support, continual support.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, we're it's 2.5 years in with Arcade Edition, and we're still doing some updates to that. So yeah, we'll definitely be supporting it for a long time.
Dedication. All right, so Dave, you're up next.
So I know with online multiplayer games that are kind of focused around multiplayer, people always are wary, especially with PSVR stuff, that the lobbies are going to dry up at some point. So I was wondering, since it's not just going to be limited to PSVR, is cross-platform going to be a thing? Because that always keeps the lobbies healthy and not have to worry as much about picking a multiplayer online game. So going to be an option?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we just got approved to add cross-platform play with PC players, and we're working.
Awesome.
I don't know if y'all saw the story. We're working with the developers of Flying Aces, Navy Combat. Anyway, they've got a flying game on the Oculus Rift, and we're going to help them bring it to the PlayStation VR. And in exchange, they're going to help us bring D-Day to the Oculus. And once we do that, then you'll have cross-platform play with the PC users. So hopefully, within a couple of months, suddenly you'll have a new influx of PC players to help augment any of the drop-off from the PlayStation play.
Very cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Which there hopefully won't be.
Yeah,
hopefully that'll keep increasing.
Yeah, I keep saying though, crossplay is like the key right now. A lot of games need that or should have it. I think it's important. Definitely.
Yeah.
And next up, we have Jules here with another question.
Yeah, I would love to learn more about that Tron Star game that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, we've got. We're going to kind of go away from, it seems like we've done a lot of World War II style games, and now we're going to kind of go into the futuristic sci-fi with kind of a Star Wars / Tron inspired game. We want to have the ability for lightsabers, laser pistols, and definitely the speeder bikes. And so we haven't really hashed out all the the details of what the storyline will be, but we know we want to have those games. That'll be the core gameplay mechanics. So we want to allow players to using the moves to have lightsaber battles. And one of the challenges with melee weapons is it's the fact that if you have a sword and you have two swords blocking, well, there's no way to keep the move controller from there's no way to physically block the player's hand.
Right.
So but I think I figured out a way to make that work around that limitation with this sort of game. So you'll be able to have fairly realistic sword combat and the ability to deflect laser, shots from a laser pistol. And, what I'm thinking is we'll probably have, flat players will probably focus more on the, the foot soldiers with the laser pistols. The VR players will probably want to go more for the lasers. And we're also thinking about maybe incorporating in some sort of I want to say spell casting, but some sort of thing, where we're not dealing with the force, but we're dealing with some sort of energy. And so you'll have the ability to maybe, have a player who focuses more on the spell aspect of using the energy of the force or whatever you want to call it, in kind of a spell casting way. So that's something that may not make it in the game, but something we're kind of considering. But it'll be set in kind of a Tron-looking sort of digital cyber area. And those will be the kind of the combat mechanics you'll get to play with.
Yeah, it's just got me smiling ear to ear.
I think everything I've heard here has got me smiling. I want to crawl inside that brain, Reggie. What's going on in there?
Being able to fight with light swords is going to be cool. That in general is going to be fun.
Yeah, that's definitely. Am I like wrong for picturing like a Battlefront kind of scenario there, like Star Wars Battlefront-esque, or?
I never played Battlefront, so I don't really know. I really can't compare what we want to do to that, but. It's going to be kind of battle focused. You'll have combat around that, and I haven't really worked out how we'll incorporate the speeder bikes and that. But like I say, we know the sort of fun aspects of wielding the laser swords and the that, and so we'll kind of work it into a story in a universe there and figure out all the storylines to go with it. So. Yeah.
So hyped.
That's awesome. We might actually be able to put out a demo, a very limited demo by summertime. Wow. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely keeping that one on the. On my
you're really
radar.
cranking away at stuff. Wow.
There's probably hardly any time to sleep.
Yeah,
no.
I'm impressed.
I enjoy it, but I work. Most of the time I work 7-day work weeks, but I enjoy what I do, so it's almost like playing.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got it made.
It's kind of hard to call it work when you play video games all day, but.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. So, Grim, I believe you've got a question up next, right?
So how did you find the Sony QA?
It's really not that bad. Now, I started out on the Xbox Indie Games channel, and they had a process called peer review, and that was awful. So this is so much better than that. But, the challenge to Q&A with Sony is just tons of requirements. But having been doing it for so many years, I've kind of gotten to where I know most of the things to watch out for. Sony's really good to work with, and they're very, if something comes up, there's always somebody you can get in touch with to figure out what you need to do to fix something or whatnot. And QA really is not that bad. Sometimes you can get through, 1 or 2 passes. Sometimes it might take 3 or 4, but it's really not that, not bad. The VR QA is a different animal, and that is awful. It's something I really hope they get, they do away with soon. It's totally ridiculous and very much a hindrance in the process. But like I say, the regular QA is really not that bad, and you've got plenty of support from Sony. That's one of the great things about them is, I've got people I can pick up the phone and call if I need. I can, post tickets and get an answer within, 4 or 5 hours. So they're very responsive, and, the process, at least on the North American side, is very automated and just pretty much very easy to do. Once you learn all of the information you got to learn. I mean, there's a lot to take in when you first get started, but after you do it, it's really not a bad program. But, like I say, it's very well done, and they're, continually improving it, and I think we've got a number of changes coming this year that'll make the process even better.
And just to run it back a little bit more, if you care to go into this, definitely, I'd love to hear more. How did you meet the people at Sony to finally get to that point where you're able to get in these QAs and make your game? Like, how did you first, run into them?
Oh, actually, I didn't run into them at all. It was right about the time, I think it was actually before the PlayStation 4 had launched, and they had become more indie friendly about that time. During the PS3 time, my experience was they were not very interested in dealing with indies, but by the time the PS4 launched, I think the scene had changed and they're much more receptive. So I just went online, filled out an application and got a rep and, just went from there. So, it was pretty easy, but I think I got in just before they had a ton of applications come in, and then I think it took a while to get approved right after I went through. So I think I just got in at the right time.
Yeah, I was going to say it's that easy, but I'm sure they have a lineup full of people just waiting, just waiting.
I don't think it's as bad. I know the guys who were doing the Flying Aces. I think it only took them a few weeks to get their app approved. So I know they just got approved. So, but we're 6-7 years in. So I think the influx, has kind of subsided at this point somewhat. So
we'll have more people inspired to make games after they play your stuff and everybody else's stuff out there. I don't doubt
that's
it.
the great thing about like Rec Room and stuff too. Is people, they become inspired by what they see and they just want to create something. That's a lot of games are like that. It's like not just specific games.
Even a few people here want to do the same thing, so you have other people inspired to do what you're doing here as well. So
definitely.
Yeah, I'm always impressed with what y'all do here.
Yeah, seriously. The opportunities here are endless. It's pretty crazy what I've seen just even recently. Anyways, I'll move on from that. Is there any other things you would like to cover today, Reggie? Anything else that you'd like to say before we head out?
First of all, thank you so much for you guys for all the things y'all have done for us, the shows you do, the videos you make. I mean, it really means a lot to me. I mean, it has really been a big help to us. I always say one of the big challenges, indie studios have is exposure. I've had trouble even getting, the PlayStation blog to mention our games in the past. And so they, it's Sony and they just don't really, have the resources to really cover all the indies. So, I mean, you guys really are critical for us getting, just awareness of our games. So, first of all, I just want to tell you guys thanks. And I don't know if you realize just how much you guys help us out, on the indie scene.
Thank you guys for being receptive and, coming out and talking with everybody and spreading the word.
Yeah.
It's important, definitely.
Yeah,
the connection's great to have. You've got the developer and the community, and the merge is really nice. You don't see that in a lot of places, so it's really good to have that.
Yeah, it's just kind of neat. And while I'm working, I'll see a message pop up on, YouTube or Twitter or something. I'll go and reply. So I try to stay pretty, pretty involved with the player base and responding to questions and feedback and all that. So it's definitely been great, and it's really been fun interacting with all the players, the people who play the games, and I think I've said before, that a lot of the players have helped shape the game. Just somebody will make a comment or why don't you do this? And it's like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I think I will do that. So, the game has definitely been shaped a lot by the players, in the beta. And I tell you, the open beta was probably the best thing I could have done for this game. I mean, so many bugs were found, and I'm sure there'll be something happen on Tuesday. I'm sure they'll be pushing out a patch on Tuesday for something. But overall, I think we've fixed the major problems, and have really got it to a pretty good state.
Well, seriously, hats off. I think you've got something that people are really going to enjoy, and that is coming out February 26th, which is actually, technically going to be today, right?
Today, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely try it out, check it out. What is the cost on the game?
It's $9.99 in the U.S., and then I think it's €8.99. Not mistaken.
There you have it. Yeah, that's affordable, and it's worth playing. Definitely spending some time in there. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Cheap and awesome, our favorite.
Yeah.
It's our favorite kind of game.
Yeah, and then we'll start working on the single player expansion as well. So we're hoping to have the single player out within a few months. So I think we've settled on that. I think what we're going to do is probably do kind of a tank-based mission where you kind of start off as like a tank crew member, and you're taking your tank across the countryside doing various missions, trying to link back up with your crew, or something along those lines. So I think that may be what we do.
Yeah, I think that'll be a winner. The tanks are really cool.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
And I'm thinking that would be kind of neat, because then you could have the social screen and the headset and let two players play, locally in the single player mission. So
that sounds like fun.
Yeah. So that.
Sorry, I'm a little excited over here. I apologize.
Anything else, guys? Anybody? Did I
well, actually, there's one thing. If I can just throw in. For everybody that's watching, what are the social links that people can go and follow you at, and keep in touch with the progress that you're doing and what your next projects are, updates on the game?
Oh, definitely. Twitter is the best place. I mean, that's where we push out most of our updates. We've got a Facebook page, a website, strangegamesstudios.com, and it probably gets the least attention, but we try to keep regular updates out on Twitter, and that's Strange Games STD. For videos, so That probably wasn't the best name to.
I was just about to say.
Once you read it back, it's kind of maybe. But Studios was taken, so I kind of abbreviated Studios.
That's funny.
Didn't really.
I didn't think about that when you first said that. Yeah,
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well,
and, it's so
you're
funny.
you're infecting us with a good game.
Yeah,
Not sexually, but close enough.
So, but it's funny, I've had reports of people saying they couldn't find the game, in the store at times. I think even Arcade Edition, I think had people say they couldn't find it or whatnot. And it dawned on me that I just somebody had messaged me on Twitter about it, and I went out there and I just happened to think, honor is spelled differently in the British language,
yeah.
and so I went out and checked. If you spell honor with O-U-R, it does not come up on the PlayStation Store. So apparently, I'm thinking that people, this may be people overseas who are, spelling it, like that, and they can't find it. So I've sent off a message to Sony. I'm like, is there any way we can put some edit? So yeah, that was not the best choice of a franchise name for sure.
Yeah, those are the things you don't really think about, until you start noticing it. That's kind of funny.
At least it's not Honor and Duty STD.
That's gonna be the ongoing joke from now on.
Poor Reggie.
Oh god, I'm gonna have to see if I can buy whoever owns the studios.
Studios, yeah. That's funny.
Find who's got that, please, man. Please sell it to me.
We'll find him for you. We'll try. It's great.
Kickstarter to raise some money. Please help us. All the other studios are making fun of us.
Well, I just want to, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out here and spending some time with us once again, and for talking about your game. We're all really excited to hop right in and check it out, and get excited for some first-person shooting action. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, thank you so much. It's great having you out here. We'd love to speak to you again sometime in the future. If you've ever got anything else, we're always here. And we just love what you're doing. You're amazing for the community, and I think we all love it. But other than that,
thank you for having me.
And I'm Justin Credible. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the PSVR chat show. Hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Goodbye.